Hi, I'm Dr. Angela McBurdy of DoctorFlute.com. Today's flute tip is on, let's talk about articulation. Do you know that, number one, you need to practice articulation. You need to be doing all sorts of articulation while you are practicing, while you're warming up, while you're doing your scales, while you're doing your etudes. Change up your articulation. It needs to be practiced. Today I want to get really specific and talk about just when we're tonguing, whether it's a staccato passage or it's a legato passage, but just tonguing. Tongue 1, slur 3, or slur 3, tongue 1. Just the mechanism and the precision of just saying ta on the flute. Most of the time with my students that come to me for lessons, or my college students that I have, they are using way too much articulation, way too much air behind that ta. So when I say too much articulation, I just mean there's too much. Now, my college students are more refined than that, but it's still, the idea is the same. There is too much air and power behind the tongue when they are articulating. I have many videos that talk about the placement of the tongue and where you should be putting your ta, and I don't really want to get into that a whole lot, except to say that your tongue should be as far forward as you can get without being on the teeth. So it needs to be very very precise, very sparkly, and very pointed. Okay. Now, when you're tonguing, you want to make sure that you don't have too much air coming out. The air has to be held in. The more air you hold in when you tongue, the more precise that ta is going to be. The more focused your air is going to be, the more focused your tone is going to be. And that's, let's face it, that's what we want. We want our tone to be there and not air coming out. So let's say an A flat. Okay, that's not focused. There's air. You can see that the tone is spread. And every time I do it, if you were to notice my stomach, is why I watch how the student breathes and how they're using that stomach air. My stomach comes in a little bit each time I do that. That is a big no-no. You don't want that to happen. That just shows. So use a mirror, tongue in front of that mirror, and watch. Does your stomach stay put? Because if I breathe and I tighten those muscles, I should be able to play at least a couple tas without using any of that air. So without allowing the stomach to contract. Now, I didn't change anything except that I kept my stomach out. I tightened those muscles and I didn't use it. I didn't use that air. And you can see, because I have to let some air out in order to breathe in. And that gave my tone a much more focused sound and less spread. So if I want to play something where there's a lot of tonguing, such as this is the Bach E flat sonata, it's the third movement. Just in tonguing some of those notes there, like right there, I felt like there was too much air. I wonder if I could make that more focused. So again, you can see I'm holding it in because I have to let air out in order to talk. I wanted to see how little can I blow, how little air can actually come out, but I still want my tongue to be very precise, ta. And there's still pressure behind that tongue. I'm just not letting the air come out. I'm not letting that come out. It's getting better and better the more I do that. Let me go to the low E flat, which isn't the next note. I feel like too much air still. Now I played all 6 or 7, if you got the next note of the next measure, all with not allowing my stomach to come in at all. Because the more I hold in, the more focused it's going to be. And so many times I've talked to my younger students, my junior hires, and I talk about how you can play those notes without every time you tongue. Every time you're playing, your stomach just contracts. You hold it out and you can get a lot more focus. So if I tighten those muscles and I leave it out, playing around with that. It's a good exercise to do. Your Bach sonatas are great to use as technical exercises as well. Just practice articulating, practice using all your different Taffanel and Gobert articulations. And how much can you hold in that air? How much can you make that tone focus and get a clear ta and just get tone to come out instead of tone with a lot of outer edges that's just plain air. And the more you hold in that air, the better it's going to be. So today's flute tip is on articulation, but specifically focus in your ta.